Hey, I'm Brooke. My friends and I perform spooky stories on our podcast 13. 13 is a movie for your ears with immersive sound design and music from our composer. And we're not reading you the same old ghost stories from Reddit. With original stories from our in-house writers and submissions from up-and-coming authors, 13 will make you smile, break your heart, and have you wishing for a nightlight. Atmospheric, slow burn, always spooky, and sometimes sexy. Our friends are some of the best voice actors and writers in our little corner of the podcast industry. So if you want to find out why those figures in black keep meeting by the water just before dawn, why you should never sleep in a room with an empty chair, or why you hear faint music echoing from the abandoned mall, join us by following 13 wherever you're listening right now. That's 13, the word, not the number, all spelled out. Bridget Howard keeps asking for my teeth. Wherever you get your podcasts.
Every Who down in Who Newville liked the holidays a ton, but where to get great prices on gifts, they had no idea. None. They searched and they searched for great gifts under $25. Gifts for spouses and friends and even their toddlers. When suddenly one Who shouted, Walmart has what you want, knowing they have Lego, Tree Hut, and low prices to flaunt. So they enjoy the holiday season as Who's often do. Cheering and shouting, Walmart has incredible gifts. Who knew? Find gifts they'll love under $25 at Walmart.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
SpectreVision Radio.
Telemetry and launch condition.
Well, some other observers are...
Hey, it's late night.
It's late night on the astral plane, where it's never too late. With your host, Ryan Singer.
It's more fun to believe.
Welcome to another voyage of Late Night on the Astral Plane. I'm your host, Ryan Singer. I hope you're doing well. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I don't know what time it is. I don't know where we are. I don't know where you are, but I've been kind of floating around for a few weeks. So my apologies if you were waiting for an episode and it didn't come. I am back. My oldest niece got married, and boy, oh boy, is that I guess the closest thing I have to a child. Got married. She got married. It was a great time in Dayton, Ohio. We had a wonderful wedding, wonderful reception, all that good stuff. I don't know. I guess, I'm of the age where there's not a ton of weddings. Like my summers aren't filled with just nothing but weddings anymore. But, nonetheless, the fall came in with a bang and then turned to winter immediately when I was in Ohio. The day I flew out, there were like 3 inches of snow in Southern Ohio. It was bonkers. I wasn't ready for that. Luckily made it with a little bit of delay, but, considering the state of the world and what was going on with the government shutdown and all that kind of stuff, I was just happy to be able to make it home. So thanks to everybody who kept working during the shutdown and made, wary travelers or wary travelers like myself be able to get back to where we were going. Gosh, there's a lot to catch up on. Now what I'm going to do here just at the top. This is, we're in the middle of November. Let's give you a 3i Atlas update. There's a live tracker. There's a 3iatlaslive.com is a website. You can go and, kind of see, it'll give you an estimation of the, the distance to the earth, the sun distance, and things like that. There's, it gives you a bunch of information that I am not completely aware of, or fully able to uh tell you. But about this website, it's a public professor level guide to the third interstellar visitor. It aims to teach, inform, and equip. Our goal is to be the best place on the web to both understand and experience 3i Atlas responsibly. So let's go to the weekly brief. The week's summary is unavailable. Oh, I guess I didn't check that before I got in here. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, there's another site here. Let me pop over to 3i Atlas. This is i3atlas.com. What we're talking about, we had a milestone reached 19 days ago. The closest approach to Earth is going to be December 18th. So we're about 30 days, a little over 30 days away from the closest approach to Earth. That'll be the Earth flyby of 3i Atlas. Now, I don't know. There's obviously differing opinions, and a lot of people are just saying they don't know what it is and things like that. It's obviously in the news, and it hasn't been in the news as much. There have been some Hubble images. Japan, or no, it was China's space station, I believe, or space program. They released some photos or some short video. It was bonkers. I'm not sure if you've been able to see that, but what we're talking about is a possible breaking up of the interstellar object itself because of how close it got to the sun, right? So, I mean, Stephen Greer will tell you, Dr. Greer will tell you that it is not an interstellar, it's not a spaceship with a bunch of aliens on it, because they wouldn't travel in such a way. They could just kind of boom, they could be here. Other people will say that maybe it is. I don't know. Obviously, I don't have the answer to that, but I just thought I'd give you the update. But like, okay, let's go to the frequently asked questions about, let's see if I can get there, if it'll even let me click on it. Why is it not? Come on now. This was working earlier and now it's not. Here we go. So this is the, my mouse doesn't work on this website. Is 3i Atlas dangerous? I think we, no. Closest approach to Earth is 1.8 AU. That's very far. Why can't I see it with my eyes? Interstellar comets are faint and small. Binoculars increase your chance dramatically. Now, we don't need to get into the impact simulator. And okay, maybe key facts. Closest to the sun was October 29th and the 30th. Closest to Earth is December 19th. So, wow, it's going 210,000 kilometers an hour. Yowzers. Threat level, none. It's too distant. So, let's feel safe about that. It's not going to collide with us. Although some people might say that might be a blessing in disguise. I'm not one of those people here. Don't want to give up. You can't be giving up just hope about life in general. No matter how dark and dismal things, and make no mistake, we are in dark times. That's darn tootin'. That's darn tootin'. People are being swallowed by darkness. It's seemingly every day. So let's fight against that. A little more, I guess, update for you. Now this isn't an update about 3i Atlas, but I got to tell you, and there's completely unconnected to this. I had an MRI done, and I got to tell you, I've never had an MRI done. If you don't know what an MRI is, it's magnetic resonance imaging. And I had no idea. I've always heard that like you're not allowed to really move, and then maybe there's like some noise that happens. I had no idea about just the intensity of the noise during an MRI. It was bonkers. So magnetic resonance imaging, right? It's a medical imaging technique that uses strong magnets and radio waves to create detailed images of the organs and tissues inside the body. It's non-invasive, and there's no radiation, ionization. You can have MRIs done repeatedly, and you're going to be fine, right? Now the the machine itself generates a strong magnetic field that aligns the protons in the human body. And then once these protons are, then some radio waves are sent through there, and they use the protons to like build maps, like, you know, 3-dimensional maps. And you can kind of, I don't understand what it all means, but I do know that it's interesting that magnetism, electromagnetism, radio waves are all involved in conjunction. And what does, and as a, you know, someone who loves to do paranormal investigations and loves the idea of even potentially using dowsing rods out in the field, to try to get answers, and trying to use that, or ITC, you know, ghost boxes, radio frequencies, radio waves, to try to communicate with the other side. I was definitely in a place for 30 minutes, unable to move. Was I seeing some things? I think I was. I mean, was I hearing the loudest noises for 30 straight minutes? Like, da, 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 da. You know, I'm not going to, it's like do a jackhammer or a rock concert. They give you little earplugs. They don't do anything. If you've ever been on a plane, you know that. It was bonkers. Okay. And there's nothing for me to be worried about for this MRI. So I wouldn't, if you're like, oh my God, why'd you have to have an MRI done? Don't worry about that. But I will say this, there was at one point, this is going to sound crazy. But you know, we're on this show. Things sound crazy a lot on this show. At one point during the MRI, I swear I saw like it was red. Like I had like it was black and red, like with my eyes were closed, right? And there was light in the room. It wasn't like I was in total darkness or in a sensory deprivation tank. But I will say this, there was a part where it felt like there was, you know, a corner, like the corner of a wall, like a hallway or something. And I saw somebody like if you're watching this, you can, I'm doing a really bad, you know, demonstration of what I'm talking about. Like somebody just kind of peeks their head around the corner of the hallway, right? And then you see their face, and you can really only see like one eye, right? So it's like, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, that's an entity. There's an entity in here. And I'm starting like, okay, I can't move at all, right? I'm even being self-conscious about my breathing and my, you know, my diaphragm and my chest moving up and down as I breathe. I was worried because if you move, it makes the images blurry. And if the images are blurry, they have to go back and they do more. And then you're in there longer and you have to hear that sound longer and you can't move longer. So I'm like, it was already kind of a delayed, you know, kind of thing. I'd already been at the hospital for a while, and I'm just like, I'm not going to be here longer than I need to. Don't move. And I'm like, there's an entity in here with me. I'm just like, oh my God, is there don't get into your head. And, you know, I don't know if you've ever had that moment. Maybe you're at a haunted location. Maybe you're at your house. Maybe you're out in the woods where you just have that thought, oh, I'm not alone. And then instantly you're like, oh, like there's an ambiguity of excitement, nervousness, uncomfortableness, curious about your own safety, and things like that. And it's just like, I had that moment. And so I start having that moment, like, you cannot get into this. You cannot spiral into a situation now where you are thinking that there's an entity in here. And so, you know, you're just kind of in your hospital gown, and you got your like feet tied together through like a Velcro strap. You know, I'm in one of the, I believe it's the closed bore MRI. I was not in an open MRI. So a closed bore MRI, apparently they have better imaging, but it's very constrained, very constricted. You're in a tube. I was, you know, I'm not a big guy, you know, I'd say I'm, you know, maybe slightly taller than average. You know, it's at 6 feet tall, I guess 185. Let's just say that. I'm in that average. I'm in that very average window. But like, I was sausage in a casing in there. So there's not a lot of movement you could do anyway, even if you really wanted to. But also you're doing your darndest to make sure it doesn't prolong. And I see this kind of a pear-shaped head, but like an upside down pear. So, kind of like a teardrop and like flipped upside down. And it wasn't creepy. Now, there's so much going on when you're in there with the loud noises. I mean, the noises they're extremely loud, and I don't think I was prepared for that. Was the thing I was not prepared for most, right? Um, extremely loud noises. Now, this isn't going to sound like a jump, and I'll admit it is a bit of a jump here. I started watching a program on Amazon Prime about many worlds theory. Now, some people are like, oh, the multiverse or the all possible worlds and all those things. A lot of those things get jumbled together, and I certainly have jumbled and convoluted them all together myself more than a few times, I'm sure. Now, this is a professional, a professor, Dr. Sean Carroll, I believe. I'll probably watch some more tonight. This is going to sound bad, but I promise you it's not meant to be bad, but it helps me fall asleep. So like if you're anything like me, I got the powder magnesium now. It's supposed to be good for like helping you fall asleep. I have to remember to take it. I got it right before. I've been bouncing around so much. I got to tell you, my apologies if, you were, hoping that there would be, sorry. I mean, I know there hasn't been an episode in a couple of weeks, but I've been bouncing around doing all kinds of things, and we've got exciting updates on also other projects and things that are going to be happening even before the end of this year. So we'll get to that maybe in a little bit, but yeah. So we're talking about the many worlds theory, and we're talking about an MRI, and and we're talking about 3-eye atlas, and how are all these things connected? And you know what? I'd be lying if I said I even knew the connective tissue that's holding these things together. But I will tell you this: there's, the invisible nature of life, right? And then I can't help but thinking, and I'm sure by the end of this episode, we'll figure out a way to maybe tie this together as well, if I can remember. But the inevitability of infinity, I believe, is still, at least for the overwhelming majority of human beings, too much to fathom. The profundity of it is so thick, so dense, so heavy, so immense, so expansive in an onomatopoeic way when it comes to thinking about infinity, that it becomes nearly impossible to really fully understand. And then as I was pondering this along with these other things in tandem or in conjunction with, because tandem would indicate maybe two, and there's like 3 or 4 things happening here. I start to realize, my concept of what time means and what time is, and the nature of time and the existence of time is wherein the problem lies. I'm so, I don't know if you hear that fuzz. I really hope not. I'm gonna do my damnedest to get this fixed. If so, it's like every 15 seconds there's like just a peak of it, a little whisper. I'm so married to this idea of linear time and of time moving forward, not backwards, not sideways, not being a dimension itself, or not be. Anyway, it's pretty confounding, right? And so being married to this idea of linear time is probably the number one fundamental flaw for me in being able to truly wrap my brain around just even the possibility that infinity is a thing or eternity is a thing. The fact that everything has always been here in one form or another, that there was no beginning. I mean, the Big Bang, but even before the Big Bang, there had to be something that creates the Big Bang. Like, what is the impetus to the Big Bang, right? So no matter how far back you go, you want to know what came before, how far back you go. And the inevitability of infinity and or eternity, of timelessness is really, really difficult for a person like me to wrap their brain around. Although I love conversations about it. I love thinking about it. I love, diving into the many different like nuances of it, or the potentialities or the imaginations and the creativities that can spur from such a concept. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean it sits comfortably with me, and that I feel like I can wear it, right? Like that I own it, or that I know it, that I can live and operate freely and comfortably with inside of it, and therefore explain it with ease and clarity to someone who might be confused about it, or someone who is also like me. That doesn't mean I have that capability or that skill, because I don't believe I do. Now, this isn't about like trying to negative self-talk. Okay. It's just, we have to know what our limitations are, and then we can, challenge ourselves to overcome them. Now, so if you have, oh, okay, you have the age of disclosure is upon us. Trickle, trickle, drip, drip. It's coming in slowly, but it's coming in. And you have Three-Eye Atlas that kind of really ignites the imagination of many people who might not be super involved or super interested in some of these things. It's at least captured their attention. And then you have, oh my gosh, you have whistleblowers, right, everywhere. And then we have technology already that is basically bonkers, right? And what I mean by that is an MRI machine. We're using magnets and radio waves to build very detailed and what I can only assume to be accurate images of inside, deep inside, penetrating throughout the entirety of the human body, the physical form. The physical form can be mapped down to atoms and protons. We're using protons inside the human body with giant. We have somehow figured out how to vibrate magnets, sending electrical currents through magnets and vibrating them, and then using in tandem radio waves to create images. That is bonkers to me. That is, who thought of this, and why did they think it should work? And then boom, it does. So before we get too far ahead of ourselves and be like, human beings, we're so primitive and blah, blah, blah. And yes, in fact, we are emotionally, I would say we are quite primitive still. And our emotional intelligence hasn't kept up with our scientific intelligence. Our empathy hasn't grown with our connection to larger communities. I think maybe that's a better way of saying it than I've said it in the past. I'm not sure. We have such large global community now through the connectivity of the internet, that, and, fiber optics and these other things and satellites, that our empathy needs to also get, supercharged into a global onto a global scale. And that's not happening. What you actually have the reverse effect in many people who are closing off and shrinking their empathy, seemingly. And, a lot of othering is happening. And people seemingly, some of them are, seem to be okay with it. And it's troubling, right? And then you have climate change. And then you have, global disasters. You have, war. You have, violence. There's a lot going on for you if you're a person. If you're a human being, there's a lot going on. And, the immensity and the weight of the current state of affairs, specifically in the United States, is of such a large magnitude that I think people might not be properly giving themselves enough grace in certain situations to take a deep breath and take a step back. Before, I had a guy almost try to ram me on the highway the other day because I was in my lane. It was so weird and strange. And I was just like, oh, this guy isn't going to poop his pants. Because that's, if you've listened to the show for a long time, you know that if someone's speeding by me on the highway or on a road, I just kind of try to give them the grace of like, oh, that person getting ready to poop their pants. Good luck to you. I hope you can find a bathroom in time before you soil yourself. But in situations of like road rage, I've never really been road rage Ryan. That's not really my bag. But I think these are all just reflections of, things that are happening in society. And, that's not a cop out to try to just, let people, I don't know, let people off the hook for almost causing a major accident on a highway because of whatever, because of whatever they're doing. But, their perception of what was happening, I guess, is different than mine. And my perception of what was happening is I have no idea. I was unaware of whatever may have been happening. But it's one of those things where when you look at the undercurrent of climate change, which I think is devastating and it's terrifying, and people just don't want to talk about it. We were doing a show over the weekend in the Sierra Nevadas, and I was with 3 friends of mine, and we did a show at this beautiful, beautiful place. And I made the quick, and we were in Bigfoot country. I mean, you're familiar with the Sierra Sounds. I mean, they're not mine. I mean, I should play them right here. But if you've never listened to the Sierra Sounds, you got to listen to the Sierra Sounds. They're just bonkers. They're really, really bonkers. Anyway, so we're in Bigfoot country, right? We are in Squatch Town. And so I'd make and there's a really good amount there was a sold out show. There's a good amount of people there. It was pouring down rain. A lot of people still came out to the show. It was great. And we're literally like on a lake in the mountains in the woods, right? I mean, there's not like civilization, so to speak, outside of this like restaurant and sports bar and like banquet room in like these cabins. And I make the joke that, hey, I believe in climate change and Bigfoot. And the reason climate change scares me so much is because Bigfoot's habitat is being destroyed, right? But when I said, that's like, it's just a quick little like kind of throwaway joke. When I said, I believe in climate change and Bigfoot, someone in the audience goes, yeah, climate change. And my initial reaction when I hear that response to the mere mention of climate change in a comedy setting makes me sad. It makes me weep for humanity that there are still people in their bubble of denial about things like that, right? But that's a guy who just doesn't want to admit that his actions or the actions of large corporations or whatever, that human beings can affect the earth, right? We like to think that we're just here on like a free pass, maybe. I don't know. And when in fact that's not the case. We're not just here on a free pass. We are in a relationship with the physical world around us. And when you're in a place like the Sierra Nevadas in the mountains, and it's just beautiful up there, you can't help but feel connected. I got to tell you this. I've been called a tree hugger before. And it wasn't long ago, maybe just a few weeks ago now, a couple weeks ago now, I was in like the Hawking Hills area of Ohio, which is also kind of squatchy. Me and my friend were walking around, and I hugged a tree, and I was like, you know what? I feel compelled to kiss this particular tree. So I have taken it to another level. I have started kissing trees. So I'm not just a tree hugger. I'm a tree smoocher. I will smooch a tree in the woods, to let them know how much I love them and I'm grateful for the work they do to make sure that I can breathe. So we've got potential serious danger caused by human beings in our habitat, right? Which I think creates an undercurrent of uneasiness and a little bit of chaos. You have heightened technology. Some of it may have been reverse engineered from alien technology. I'm not saying MRI machines have been, because electromagnetism has been a thing that used to be magic, but now it's science and has been for quite a while now. I'm not saying that because there are people who dedicate their entire lives to trying to understand the magical forces of nature that are science and then label and become science. So it is no surprise to me that we tinker, we investigate, we prod, we poke, we experiment, we get burned, we light bulbs go off in our mind and then in the world. Thank you, Nikola Tesla. It's not a surprise to me that we can make these advancements, because if I had the wherewithal to be able to try to learn science in a formal education setting, or even self-taught through Amazon Prime programs like The Many Worlds with Dr. Sean Carroll, maybe I'll have a better understanding. And now, to be clear, The Many Worlds theory is quantum mechanics. And actually, let me see if this is the right notebook. It is not going to be. I took notes. I should have already had this ready. That's my bad. Here we go. And sometimes I actually know what I'm doing. Okay, so bring it together. Advanced technology, the chaos of fear, of the destruction of our habitat. We have the advancement in the understanding of disclosure, and that we're not alone in the universe. And, coupled with our own scientific advancements, not to mention, just these boggling disclosures that on a personal level from people who are coming forward and talking about their experiences. We have, the telepathy tapes. We can go back to that. We can mention that more and more people beginning to understand that telepathy is not such a crazy thing. And it's actually quite a natural thing, and that people can be tapped into it, and that there are real, thriving, creative, wonderful, loving people inside what has historically been considered to not be inside when it comes to nonverbal autistic people. So, you get disclosure, you get, science, you get all of this stuff wrapped together. You have these, people on a grand scale going deeper, diving into their own selves and trying to understand consciousness. And what you do is, and then it's, in the backdrop of this is quite dark times, right? Which seems, I don't know, does it seem fitting in some really crazy way? I don't know. But I will say this, it leaves us with an opportunity to find some hope if we can do the work of searching, right? It's too easy to give up. It's way too easy to give up, in my opinion. For me, it's way too easy to give up. We owe ourselves, and we owe the people around us, we owe them the small favor of at least giving a second look for something hopeful around us. And that is in community, and comfort in community. To me, that is what it's always going to be. And that's where we will find it. And, and then throw all of this stuff into the bowl, the salad bowl that is trying to understand what eternity or infinity even means, or the non-linear nature of time, and the ultimate expansiveness of the universe. And then it becomes, we are really trying, we're like toddlers running onto these concepts. All these concepts to me are like the biggest, baddest, strongest, fastest football player on the football field. And we are these tiny children running onto the field trying to tackle these concepts, right? When we try to understand them, and we try to really tackle them and wrap our brain or wrap our minds around them, we're these toddlers trying to wrap our arms around these really strong, fast, incredible athletes that can shirk us with the slightest shake of a leg, right? But every once in a while, a toddler gets lucky and they'll take one down, and then the rest of us can learn from that. Kind of like the monkey. Because regrettably, I was was within the last year, I think I've mentioned this. This was the one in the last year that I realized I didn't have to that I could put my hand really close to my eye when I was trying to do eye drops. For some reason, maybe a fear of like poking myself in the eye with the Visine thing or whatever. I was always like, I wasn't like straight armed 2 feet away, but I was at least 90-degree angle up here, right? And I'd always miss. And then one day, for some reason, I probably saw someone else do it, didn't realize it at the time. And the next time I did it, I just emulated them. I was right there, boom. And I was like, oh my God, this is so easy. It's so easy to put eye drops in all of a sudden, when previously it had been difficult for me, which sounds ridiculous. I know. Just shorten the distance between the two things to make them easier to get from one to the other. Why would I not think of that? I had not. And here we are. Finally, I got there. Way, way, way too late. I've been doing eye drops for 30 some years at least, right? So there's hope. I was like, but like that monkey, the first monkey that learns how to fish and catch a fish from the river and eats it. And then the other monkey sees it and then he does it. And then next, you know, the whole village is fish eating monkeys. That's what humans are, right? So I'm going to take a break, but when we come back, I've already been talking too long, probably. We're going to talk more about the many worlds theory and how it ties into other things that we've already kind of covered in this podcast over the years. And just all this stuff kind of ties together, right? And if we can take a breath and take a moment and sit back and try to really just think about it, we can almost get tickled by the connections, and we can understand the interconnectivity of these things, no matter how disparate they might appear at first. And that's a great reminder of how connected all of us are, no matter how different or how far away we may seem. And we're going to do that when we come back from this short break. Remember, patreon.com/Ryan Singer, $3 I don't even know my name anymore. $3 a month gets you no commercials ever. So, feel free, pop on over there. We're going to be right back.
No one should have to choose between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Purina is helping to create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters through the Purple Leash Project, so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to learn more.
And we are back. Thank you for rejoining me. Always have to have a good crystal with you when you are doing anything, I imagine. Now, we're getting ready to talk a little bit more about the many worlds theory, which is part of quantum mechanics. You might be asking yourself, well, what is quantum mechanics? It's a framework for doing physics. Now, classical mechanics is what quantum mechanics has replaced. Now, you might find this interesting. I sure did. That quantum mechanics seems like a really fancy new kind of thing to me, right? It turns out early 20th century. So in the early 1900s is when quantum mechanics was introduced. And then I think it was somewhere in the middle of the 20th century where all the, the best and the brightest of the times got together and, had a symposium or a conference about quantum mechanics, and the many worlds theory was postulated, and not that new, right? So, it's not like it's 100 years old, but it's over 50 years old. It's older than we are, most of us listening to this program or talking during this program. So it replaced classical mechanics, which was established by Isaac Newton and others. And so what you got here is you got a really kind of big idea. And a lot of people will be like, oh, it's just kind of an idea. It's an interpretation. And the thing that Dr. Sean Carroll really wants us aware of is that the many worlds theory of quantum mechanics is not an interpretation. And, we can sit around and we can interpret what literature means, what a poem means, what a story means, what Shakespeare means, what a song means, written by, I don't know, Jimi Hendrix. We can we can reinterpret a song and play it slightly differently, right? We can interpret what a joke even means, right? If it's kind of absurd, or might have, maybe it's satire, maybe it's an allegory, things like that. We can dive in, and we can research, and we can interpret, right? Which is different than being a critic, by the way. It seems like a lot more people nowadays want to just be critics of things more than, I don't know, interpreters of things. And that's fine, right? I mean, it just seems like, the fact that there are like podcasts, being, critiquing podcasts, it's just like, it's so cannibalistic. It's so meta. It's so strange and bonkers to me. But hey, such is the nature of things, as Kevin Kelly might tell us in his TED Talk about evolution, that it tends towards specialization, and therefore everything becomes more specialized the longer it is around, which is a very linear time concept, right? So let me get this pop-up window off that just popped up about a recording that we're doing. Okay, so there's something else that really tied into this that struck me as interesting. Now, the many worlds theory and the basic quantum mechanics that go into it, it's a little convoluted, and it's a little beyond my pay grade for being able to like really distill it to you at this point. And maybe in the future, when I'm finished with this course, I'll be able to do a better job of that. Now, it is fascinating to me, but if we're already aware a little bit of the double slit experiment, of the particle and the wave, and the difference between a wave and a particle, it helps us maybe get a better understanding. And it also starts introducing terms like superposition to us, which is something I've never truly fully understood. I believe Gilbert Lowland, who's been on the program before, he loves all this stuff. And we've talked about this stuff, and I know he's mentioned it. It's a little, like I said, beyond the scope of my understanding, and having a deep depth for it, at least at this point, right? But I can tell you this, that the wave and the particle in the double slit, simply observing something changes the behavior of a thing, changes the nature of a thing, right? And anybody who's ever performed stand-up comedy knows this. You ever set up a camera to try to tape your set, your set feels different. If you're recording an album or making a special, it feels different because of a very intentional observation is happening, right? That it's like you are observing your own set while you're doing it in a strange way, outside of just being present in the moment and being aware of what you're doing. Anyway, that's something that I've always, and comedians have always talked about, that we're aware of that for sure. Now, but what you have here is you have the potential of a wave that, let's just say, like, you got a wave in this big space in the box that you're watching, right? And then the second we try to measure it and to try to observe it, that wave becomes a particle somewhere. Like we could see, oh, there's the dot, right? Let's just say that, right? And boom. But here's the thing, that's where it is. But it was everywhere in that space where the wave was before we decided to observe it, right? So, which means it could have ended up anywhere in that space. So the theory, I'm kind of really maybe doing a bastardization of this, but the many worlds theory is now the potential of that particle being able to be anywhere else in that space. It is and is and is and is and is and is and is. It just happened to pop into that spot where we were able to observe it, but it also was everywhere else. And therefore we have created, by observing, all of these other worlds for it. Right now, there's a big difference here. And Sean Carroll goes out of his way, I should maybe call him Dr. Carroll, goes out of his way to say, this is not what people are talking about when they say just thinking of a possible future has created that timeline. Now, in the woo-woo world, we love this, right? We love the manifestation of timelines, jumping timelines, cup jumping. I've even tried to do cup jumping, and other exercises to jump into other timelines, right? And, I know people who do that, or, claim to have done it and things like that. And I'm not saying they haven't, but this is not, many world series, not what that is. Okay. Simply thinking about something, or simply making a different choice, like the movie Sliding Doors or something like that. That's not what the many worlds theory is. Now, what also makes this interesting is it's don't be thinking about physical space when you're thinking about all these things just like layered, boom, 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 like they need their own space to be, creating, right? Or to exist. It's just all intermeshed on top of each other. Boom. Like this is where it gets confusing. And this is where we have to try to expand our mind in a way. And it reminds me of, what is it? Flat World, that book. The world's first, what is considered to be the first sci-fi book. It's to think about time not being linear, to think about space in an interdimensional nature, that maybe it's a different frequency, maybe it's a thing. Like, think of, I guess the best way for me to, I'm just thinking of this now, is I'm thinking of a television set, and I change the channel and there's a whole world there now. That doesn't mean that other world has to have just as much, but it's the same big world. It's taking place in the same big world as the other world, but it's a completely different reality, right? But it doesn't mean it needs a whole nother world, right? It's all still boom, right there. And just with the flick of a button or the thing, now it's there. You can see it. It's within it, and it's within. They're within each other without being intermeshed. That's pretty confusing to me, but it makes sense in my simple mind right now. Okay, so but the interesting thing was there was a connection here, at least to me. I was thinking about God, I can't remember the name of the book now, but Oliver Sacks wrote it, and it was about hallucinations, I believe was the name of the book. I was thinking about some of the concepts in that, right? And I couldn't remember all the names, and I'm going through this old notebook and I'm looking at some old notes of books I've read, because I will write down notes from time to time about things I'm reading, and hope someday future Ryan will be courteous enough to go back and look at some of the notes I've taken, and that's when future Ryan says, "Oh, thank you, past Ryan, for doing that." Every once in a while I'll future Ryan up. Like, I'll come back from like being on the road for 3 weeks, and I'll be like, "Oh my God, there's Ben and Jerry's in the freezer." Past Ryan, you really, really hooked me up. Thank you for that. But polyopia is the thing I was thinking. And polyopia is looking at one thing and seeing many identical things in a row. Now, this ties into the world of hallucinations. Hallucinations. Is that what I was going to say? What is a hallucination? That's pretty interesting. But yeah, so polyopia, looking at one thing, polyopia, looking at one thing and seeing many identical things in a row. Maybe we've all experienced this in some degree. Now, I can't help but also think that maybe there's some kind of tie-in to pareidolia here. Now, I could show you that. Maybe we'll do a quick break, and I'll just show you one of the things. I'm doing a new series called Faces in the Floor, but because I do have pareidolia, I see faces. My mind, that's how my brain operates. Everywhere I look, I'm seeing like, oh, that could be the eye, that could be the nose. Like, I'm making a face. It's not that a face is there necessarily. It's that I am finding things to make a face, right? That's what my brain is doing. That's pareidolia. It's great when maybe some of the seats are empty at your show. You can still see faces there. There's still audience members, but looking at one thing and seeing many identical things in a row. So, why does this tie into the many worlds theory? Well, you look at one world and you see many identical worlds in a row. Maybe not as identical means, right? So, because we're talking about such a slight variation of worlds, realities, whatever we want to call it. When the wave becomes observed as a particle, it could be just the slightest other variation of where it could have been. It could have just been, just a smidge, boom, 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 right? That is a nearly identical world. That is a nearly identical world than the world you're already observing. So that doesn't mean does that mean that the butterfly effect comes in and then this tiniest millimeter of a difference, then a million years later turns into the greatest unrecognizable difference, like where you could never guess that this world was that world. But that doesn't necessarily mean you can just pop over to that world either. We don't know. We're going to find out the more we dive into the many worlds theory. Now, if you saw the television show during the pandemic, it was on Hulu called Devs, DEVS. I highly recommend Devs. And if I'm not mistaken, the many worlds theory was at the heart of Devs. And I don't think it was the all possible world theory, which is a competing theory, by the way. But here's the interest. Let's wrap up this many worlds theory thing. The interesting aspect about the many worlds theory is it's not an interpretation, like I was saying, and I got distracted. Meaning they can make predictions and they will result in the predictions they can make using this scientific theory. They are testing the many worlds theory, and the results have time and time and time again come back proving, at least in many, 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 many ways, no pun intended, many worlds theory, it's testable. It's testable and it's repeatable and it's working. Now, this is what's fascinating. Now, there's other people out there, and maybe it's here in the next week or two, or the next few months. There is this one guy out there on the internet. He's banging his drum as loud as he can that this is all BS. And let me tell you, it's all these clickbait videos like why the many worlds theory is flawed. They don't want you to know, like, that kind of stuff. We'll dive into that as well and see what we think. And as soon as I have more information for you, obviously I'll give you some as well, but I'm still kind of early in on this thing. And when we come back, I want to tell you why I'm so interested in it, right? And what I think it actually means potentially for the world of the paranormal and alien life and the future of humanity and consciousness. Because I do believe that these things are tied together, and potentially why it's exciting if the many worlds theory indeed is the reality of our existence. And we're going to do that right when we come back. Okay, so patreon.com/Ryan Singer, $3 a month, no commercials. I'll see you over there.
Hello, I'm Diane Morgan. If you know who I am, you know who I am. If you don't, who cares? I'm here to explain Italian Time, a holiday phenomenon where Italians throw away their clocks and gather for eternity with San Pellegrino. I've been at this party so long that I've eaten 5 courses, hugged someone's grandma twice, and been offered a job in the family restaurant. So this holiday season, make sure to bring enough San Pellegrino to last you through the meal, the after meal, and the entire goodbye ritual. San Pellegrino, holiday on Italian Time.
At Blinds.com, it's not just about window treatments. It's about you, your style, your space, your way. Whether you DIY or want the pros to handle it all, you'll have the confidence of knowing it's done right. From free expert design help to our 100% satisfaction guarantee, everything we do is made to fit your life and your windows. Because at Blinds.com, the only thing we treat better than windows is you.
Black Friday deals are going on all month long. Save up to 45% off site-wide plus an additional 10% off every order right now at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions apply.
And we're back. And I can't tell you how excited I am to get into this last little bit, right? Because I'm going to put a bow on this about what I think, and I'm going to let you know about some exciting things that are on the horizon. Now, if in fact the many worlds theory is true, and although admittedly I don't understand the complete implications of such a thing, what I can tell you is this: the idea that we can scientifically prove that there are many worlds simultaneously within, on top of, or whatever, how intermeshed to each other, however you want to however you want to describe it, is super mind-blowing and super exciting. When we move to the future, and the more we understand about the nonlinear nature of time, which I'm still kind of baffled about, the more we understand about how eternity or infinity can even be things, right? The better we will be at just kind of having that as lock, stock, and barrel in our minds, right? That is our baseline. That is our foundation. But we have not been raised, my generation, the generation after, the generation before, the young kids now, they're not being raised with these concepts. Therefore, they're kind of like, whoa, they're mind blowing, right? Which is in itself kind of interesting, because we all like having our minds blown. I think that's a fun thing to happen. And I think most people would agree that they enjoy that. I know I love having my mind blown, right? So like when I realized I could drop the eyedropper closer to my eye, it blew my mind. Some of them are more profound than others. So think of a future where children are taught about the true nature of time, not being linear, but being, a dimension. By that point, we'll have a way to really kind of lock it in and give them, give them the tools to truly understand it. That changes the way your brain works. Think about our daily lives. Everything is based around time. Time is such a prison, right? These watches we wear are prison bracelets. It is a prison, right? I'm not saying we all got to break free out of this prison, right? It's a prison of our own design, right? Oh, I got to get here by then. I got to be here by then. Oh, set my alarm. Oh, this is my week schedule. What's my schedule look like? This is my to-do list. I have to have it done by now. I have to get this podcast recorded by then, so they're going to have it released by then. Everything. Oh, it's Monday. When's my birthday? Oh, I'm this many years old. Time controls so many things that we don't understand. It is really kind of gotten its claws into every single thing. And by that, I mean linear time and static dates and things like that. So some scientists are saying that we can like retroactively change things. And we can't even get into that now because I haven't even been able to really dive into that. But think about oh my God, we're talking about retroactive change. So if the many worlds theory is true, I observe something differently than you do. We are observing together. There are so many different interpretations, and there are so many observations happening constantly. And when we can wrap our brains around the idea that there are potentially, seemingly limitless opportunities, right? We then begin to break free of a narrow-minded point of view. Is this a stretch? Is this a reach? When we embrace the idea of many worlds, when we understand the existence of alternatives to what we see that are simultaneous with what we believe to be experiencing or observing and understanding and knowing, seeing, feeling, we start to muse a little bit. We start to become a little more curious. We might want to ask more questions. Peradventure, we understand that there's not one way that something can be done. There's not one way that something must be, because we understand that the nature of our very existence is many as it is observed. It becomes singular, but it is many. And with that, there is variety. With that, there is diversity. And when you think of the paranormal, and I am hell-bent on all of my wacky theories about things that can't be explained, that I haven't been able to, even think about testing in a way to try to prove them. But I'm almost convinced that the human eye sees a ghost different than a camera does. And a human eye will see a figure of a ghost, maybe a full body apparition if you're so lucky, or maybe a shadow moving along the wall. And the camera will capture it as an orb. I just feel like that's the thing. I just feel like that's a thing. And I feel like that applies to potentially more than just ghosts. We're talking about any kind of paranormal entity or potentially even cryptid type creatures. Now, why does it appear to be an orb or a ball of light or something like that on a camera, and to the human eye it appears to be a figure or something else? I don't know that. Is there something about the something about the mechanics of the human body, the flesh and the blood and the oxygen, and we need many things to stay alive, and therefore we are much different than a camera, right, or a lens. Our eyes might be, lenses and cameras might be designed after our eyes. They may have been inspired by the design of our eyes and the understanding of how our vision works, but we are not the same, and we are not the same thing, and therefore the way we observe things are different. So simultaneously, I could see a ghost, and the camera could see an orb. Maybe, right? That is maybe an example of being able to capture the many worlds theory. Is that possible? Now, there's a great example of this that is, it's in the documentary Fits. And I still, it's one of these things. It's ambiguous. Mama Sue, when we were all at Greg's house, was sitting in a chair and jumped out of her chair, kind of screaming that something was coming for her. And I happened to be behind her, and she ran over to me and hugged, like grabbed me and hugged me, looking for additional protection. Now, on camera, on multiple cameras, or on one camera for sure, my camera, I believe, there is this weird orb that many of the team are convinced is probably what Mama Sue saw. But Mama Sue didn't see an orb. Mama Sue saw a black shadow figure rushing toward her. But the camera caught an orb that seems to independently move up and around Ed Brown's head, and kind of in a way that, and then as it darts away, after Mama Sue jumps up and runs over to me. Now, is this an example of what I'm talking about? And is this one of the things that made me really start thinking about this as a potential, theory? And I don't know enough to know if other people have this theory. And I'm sure I'm not the first person to think about this, right? So I'm not coining this idea. More than likely, I'd be shocked if I was. But yes, but to me, it ties into the many worlds theory, potentially. And I'm going to dig deeper. We're going to find out more. We're going to try to see what we can do about that. Now, I mean, I don't even want to get into the Mothman, right? Like, I'm trying to think about, like, if we can apply the many worlds theory to all kinds of things, and I have to understand it better to be able to do such a thing. And also, by the way, I don't know if it's still going on, but the Haunted Artifacts live tour that the Newkirks are doing, I had the chance to see that with my buddy Daniel here in Los Angeles, and it was bonkers. It was really, really good. If you have a chance to see that, I highly recommend it. I mean, talk about putting some theories out there, and having some info to try to like sway you, and try to lay the groundwork for some ideas. I mean, it's a really, really entertaining, wonderful thing. So I'm not sure if it's still going to be out there live right now or not, but next time they put it back up on its feet, you need to go check it out if you can. It was truly, truly rad. Maybe I'll try to get them on there to talk about that here in the near future. Because I do believe Hellier 3 season 3 is probably coming out sometime in the very near future. From what I've been able to maybe hear, I don't think that's a secret, actually. So I really hope I'm not like letting a cat out of a bag over here. But which I don't think I am. But yeah, so also, I wanted to let you know that, the Florida investigation. We had a bonkers trip in September. It was really, really great. And here in about, God, if I had to really, we're in the middle of November. I can tell you this, the beginning of December, we're going into, and by we, I mean myself and another friend of mine, we are going into like hyper mode into editing and starting to put the documentary together. So what has been 6 years of my life is getting ready to go into hyperdrive starting next month, and specifically in January next year, 2026. That movie will be out by the end of next year is the plan. So there's a lot of heavy lifting, but I tell you what, I'm getting some top-notch assistance and help and collaboration on this. And I'd be so excited to tell you more about that at some point in the future when I'm able to do so. But just know this, your guy is getting ready to just lock himself into a bunker for a while and really just get into it. And there will be more trips down there as well, but and some other things that we'll have to do for the movie, but it's done. And the production is like 95% done. So now I'm going into post-production, and boy, am I excited about it. And we've got some things that I didn't realize were going to be possible. And let's just say it's going to change everything as far as telling the story goes. So I'm super, super excited, and being able to show you just exactly what I've been up to for 6 years, specifically relating to that location. But yeah, so that's going to do it. I love you. I hope you love yourself. I hope you're taking care of yourself. It's been raining over here, so it's like, let's just stay inside and sit on the couch. But I've been having to travel and things like that. But maybe the next day or two, I'm just going to have some rainy days. Again, apologies. I took a little break. I was out bouncing around, doing some things, hanging out with family, seeing some friends, doing some things, doing some shows. And now we're back. And now the goal is to try to get back to 2 episodes a week. So we're going to see about that. I got some fun interviews lined up. I'm excited about bringing some really, really cool, interesting, fascinating talks with people I haven't talked to before, and some people I have. So that's all going to be coming your way. So thanks again for listening. I appreciate you. And remember, it's never too late over here. It's more fun to believe. And we're going to keep doing the show the way we do it. And, it's video, it's video moving forward, but also audio, wherever you find podcasts. So, yeah. So in the meantime, if I don't see you at a show, I'll be in Los Angeles pretty much. I'll just see you at the watering hole on the astral plane.
Now receiving frequency transmission.
How do we know what's real? There's so many things that are unknown in this universe that I'm thankful I don't know the answers to. In many ways, I feel like the unknown is a gift. It allows us to imagine what could be. And sometimes imagining what could be is actually greater than staring right at what is. Our brains try so hard to manufacture certainty, and in our attempts to manufacture certainty, I think we get stuck, and that causes us often to ignore what is real for one person, which may be completely unreal for someone else. So how do we know what's real? We don't. Not knowing what is real allows us to peer more deeply into what could be. And that is a gift in and of itself.
Transmission complete. Stay tuned to SpectreVision Radio. Stay.